New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy and pleasure to be here today. Each week we offer up conversations. We have guests from all walks of life, people that are creating positive change in the world. And we have conversations. We have deep dives with these individuals to take a little look behind the scenes to see how their life influenced who they've become. And we get into the positive things, the work, the offerings, the art that they bring into the world that touches people in significant ways. And when we can see this portrayed through somebody else's life, by hearing them share their story, it affects us because we're all connected, we're all interrelated, interdependent. And so when we get a sense that it can happen in their lives, then we know for sure that it can happen in our lives too. So today I have another wonderful guest, a beautiful creative soul, John Stringer. John and I met each other last year, and I've been so looking forward to having this conversation to share with you this beautiful soul. And for those of you that are watching, you can see him, there he is. And for those of you that are listening, welcome. I'm so glad you found us. So let me tell you a little bit about John. John Stringer is a life teacher, speaker, Billboard charting singer-songwriter, healer, award-winning author. He has a passion for music, community, and limitless love and light. He teaches others how to access genius through a spiritual path, creative path, and or an intuitive path. So John, welcome. So glad you're here today.
Thank you so much. So good to see you, dear sister, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've really been looking forward to having this conversation with you because I have been listening to your music as I've been diving into all of your things online, your website especially, and some of your YouTubes. I've been seeing that you really have so many different spokes on your wheel. You really have a lot going on in your life, and you really are making a huge impact because you've got such a vast variety of creative offerings. So we talked a little bit about the things you do. You take adventures, you do these conscious creator retreats. You also have a history of music. You were in a band at some point, and right. I've been listening to your music, so I know you've got a solo album. You're an author, and you're a coach and a speaker and a presenter. So I don't even know where to begin except at the beginning. So who are you, and how did all this start? Where did you gain this huge, well of creative inspiration? Was it your family? Was it your early days? Tell us a little bit about you.
You got it. And thank you for the beautiful introduction and overview. So I look back, and first I'll say I'm grateful for what I've been shown, because I've asked many of those questions too, like, why am I doing so many things? And why do I hear to do this and this and this? And what I learned was that I came into this life to express a lot, to share a lot. And where some of us come to focus on very specific paths and master this something specific and put most of their time into that, I came to master my alignment with source and then express creatively, like writing songs. Instead of just writing one, I'm writing a lot. So becoming prolific that way. So I'd say the wellspring comes from that alignment with the source of life and the limitless expression of our limitless love and light. Like there's just limitless possibilities. And so I really tune in and hear what's mine to do, like what's my celestial blueprint. And I follow that. And sometimes I too scratch my head like, wow, okay. But my capacity has expanded beyond anything I would have dreamed. I mean, yeah, I'll just quickly say where I am now, I never would have dreamed I could do. So I'm very grateful for that. But going back to where it started, coming in, it was this perfect, now I see it as a perfect preparation. Like my life was the perfect preparation to bring me to be able to serve the way that I am, both in dealing with very painful things and in the suffering I chose. Because the suffering was optional, the pain was essential.
So was that in your
ahead.
early childhood? Was
In the
your
early
childhood a
childhood.
tough one? Where were you born?
Well, so I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was a 3-month premature emergency surgery, and my mother has this was a nice foreshadowing. My mother had a challenge in remembering if it was my sister or me when we were born, that had this very emergency, almost urgent, where the doctors basically said only one of you could come out and you all have to choose. And my mother and father went ahead and just didn't choose. They were saying, we're just going to see what happens. Right. And, I was rushed in my dad went to the police station and they rushed with a police escort, or I think he got pulled over, one or the other, and he told them, look, y'all are going to have to follow me. I'm going to race, because we were in Tennessee. They raced all the way to Knoxville. So it was just a lot of fear and bleeding. My mom was going through it. They had to do an emergency C-section. But I was blessed to be born in Knoxville, Tennessee, grew up in Spring City for a little while my mom and dad were in Bible college. My dad was in Bible college there. And then at a place called Sedon. Love that. I used to grow up going to camps there and everything. And then we moved to Chattanooga and grew up in Chattanooga. But during that childhood, my dad left when I was about 3. And I never saw him again until I was an adult. And that was a lot of what I chose to suffer over. However, looking back, I was abundantly rich and blessed. So I often say it's not a victim story, it's a victory story. That was the perfect ingredient to remove my father so that I would seek out the Father. That gave me a powerful yearning to connect with that source of life that appears to me and speaks to me as the Father. It literally calls me son. Like when I tune in and listen, but it also lets me know that I am an extension of it and that we are one. So it's this fascinating, beautiful healing that has taken place, where that yearning for a father was essential to my desire to connect directly. And so growing up, I tried a lot of things, and you know how you have to go through many things to, one, develop your palate. Right. And really almost like grow, like the small plant, when you first seed it, it starts to develop the roots and grows, and it might not be strong enough yet to bear the fruit. And so for me, I had to go through all of these wonderful experiences that I now cherish and value, but then were the pain of the growth and the pain of the ingredients, I didn't necessarily know how to accept or recognize. And so, you know, as they say, I saw as a child. You know, my son is kind of like, you know, going to school and like, oh, I hate this, and yeah, this sucks, and you know, doesn't see how it might be preparing him for something greater. And that's how I felt like going through school. I was the same way, had the same attitude. Life school, and then finally, that suffering reached a peak to where my desire to awaken eclipsed the desire to keep choosing suffering. And so finally I started choosing, but I had a complete breakdown, ended up in at 18, I was at Morehouse. I went to West Point Military Academy first. Once I graduated high school, I did really good. I was like, had all these accolades, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just trying to do my best and felt like an imposter, right? I was like class president, MVP of my wrestling team, all these president or all these things, got my nomination to West Point from, you know, all the representatives and all of that stuff, and went. And when I was there, I was like, what am I doing? I might have made the biggest mistake of my life. It was a wake-up call. And I had so much emotion that I didn't understand. So I didn't know what they were at that time. And so being there really amplified those blocks. And so as I was there, I transferred to Morehouse, realized I didn't want to be in the Army. And Morehouse College, for those unfamiliar, Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the alumni, class of 48. Morehouse brother, the house. And so was just went there and just, I would say, learned the hard way that I wasn't focusing, listening, aligning, and prioritizing. And so kind of spun out. By my senior year, I was blessed to be blessed with a daughter from one of the Spelman Knights, which is an all-girls college right next to the all-guys college. So during that time, I was so afraid, and I was kind of giving into the fear at that time. And so long story short, all of that, I ended up in had a mental breakdown, but then it was a breakdown to breakthrough, because I ended up in this limitless love and light, unconditional light, outside of my body and simultaneously in my body, watching myself cry and feel ashamed and all of this while I was the love. Like, it was just incredible. I remember having that break, and it set me on a new path. And so I began to search for what was real. And I tried different things through religion and spiritual practice, everything from devout Christianity to studying the Bible every day, praying, proselytizing. Did that for 3 years straight. I got mad because I couldn't close the gap between the ideal from what I was studying versus the reality of who I was showing up as, trying all these practices and not being set free. I'm like, this ain't working. So it took 10 years, and that's when I did my wild journey with my rock band. It got a top 10 Billboard single, toured the world, ended up on cover of in magazines, endorsements, lived the rock style life, sex, drugs, rock and roll, did all of that. And it was fun. And by the end of it, I realized I didn't like who I'd become. I was emotionally out of control. And
reconciling those two parts, having that deep awakening and that deep, big love experience, and then taking that on the road. With rock band, that must have been an incredible adventure.
It was. It was the consistent. I can sum it up by saying, I remember when I was 8, I was in a elevator, and I accidentally pushed the wrong button. I was only 8 years old trying to meet it was at a library, trying to meet my mom, and it was the alarm. And all of a sudden it's ringing. The elevator wouldn't open, and I panicked. And I'm crying, and I'm like pushing buttons, like, hyperventilating. I ended up with claustrophobia for a while after that. I didn't get rid of it till I was an adult, but I'm in that just panic, and all of a sudden I can hear voices outside screaming different things, but I didn't know what they're saying. I'm screaming and crying. And finally, I keep hearing something repeat, and I begin to listen. It's like, look for the such and such button. Look for the blah, blah, blah button. I finally notice what they're saying. I'm like, and I finally hit the button, find it, and all of a sudden it opens. I run out to my mom and my sister. They're there, and all these people are surrounded. And, the guy who was telling me how to get out, I finally heard him.
That's such a good metaphor.
Yes.
It's always broadcasting. It's always saying,
That's it.
I'm here.
And we got to learn how to listen. And so that's what everything I went through finally taught me. What I got to see a lot of things, some things that worked and didn't work. Like my mom gave me a beautiful faith in discipline, practice, going to church, reading the Bible, doing all these things. So I learned that from her daily. And I learned that I had to find the right teachings, and that I could connect with that spirit, that the very thing she was teaching me said was available. There's a scripture that says there's a spirit that teaches all things, even the things that the master teacher had been teaching at that time. That was what he was quoted as saying. Well, I just happened to find how to finally listen to that spirit and listen for how to be guided out. And my life was the chaos being, stuck in the elevator, hitting the wrong buttons and panicking. That's how I experienced life in a lot of ways. And it was like, all you got to do is listen, hit the button, the easy button, the release button, listen, align, allow, let go, and the doors will open. Knock, seek, ask, I finally did it. So that's been, that was a long answer to your question of the where it all started, in the perfect ingredients that were brought into my life to finally open up and begin to listen and hear that loving, intelligent, genius guidance to guide my path and to help me express what is our essence, like that limitless love and like that genius, all of that God within us, to bring it and shine it. And so that's what I'm doing now, and helping others, recognize their path, what their purpose is, and do the same. So I've been blessed to, have the journey I've had.
Someone's chiming in. Good morning. Thank you for sharing, from Benjamin Michaels.
Hello, Benjamin.
So you have this rich spiritual structure to a faith that your mother and your father, to some degree, planted early on, and having this, it sounds like you had an incredible education and an experience with deepening into who maybe you want to be. Mm-hmm. So through this breakthrough that you had, and this greater experience of the divine or God, it sounds like a very intimate experience, something that happened within you. Did you then take it out? Is there a community or other people of like mind that you found, or maybe a text, a sacred text, or a spiritual path that has supported you in this more independent journey outside of your childhood spirituality?
Great question. Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, because I feel when we begin to really listen, the first vision I received was, it's like this wonderful puzzle, right? And we're one of the pieces of this beautiful tapestry of consciousness. And that puzzle piece begins to light up all its edges, its unique individuated way it is representing. And as it does that, it begins to attract the other pieces and build that community and light. Everybody's lighting up and it becomes a brighter and clearer picture. So I remember when I got that vision, I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. Learning my edges, who I'm here to be, lighting up through that alignment. And then it led me to community. And my dad first introduced us to community when he joined a community when I was 3. My mom took us out, and that's why I hadn't seen him for so long. He left. By the way, am I blurry right now?
No.
Am I coming
You're
through clear?
clear as day.
Good. I'm seeing you. You were a little blurry, so I didn't know if it was my end or what. So anyway, we left that community, and it left an impression on me and having a desire. It was one of those communities where literally a commune where they lived together. We gave up our house and all of that stuff.
Wow.
Based on Acts chapter 2, if anybody's familiar with that. They were literally living Acts chapter 2, giving up everything, claiming nothing as their own. So that left an impression, and I had this desire to experience community. But I remember in 2013 or 14, I was a director of marketing at this beautiful agency. Had my corner office in the King Tower in Atlanta, for those familiar. And in the mornings, I would do this, use my spiritual practice to figure out what was mine to do. And I got this insight, and I began to write down that community is not only physical, but virtual, and that I was to be a part of that. So long story short, I ended up being a part of this wonderful international community. But that was 2015 is when I left my director of marketing position and began to pursue music again as a solo artist. And then I began to hear, now it's time to teach. Like, teach? I'm a musician. What do you mean teach? It's like all this stuff you've been getting since 2007 is when I finally began to hear, direct, and take note of it. And I would anonymously ran a website called Ask Reality Love, and we would anonymously answer other people's questions. So nobody knew who I was for 3 years doing this, but I would get tons of questions and just tune in and get the answers. So I learned a lot through that process. And then 2015, I heard to become a teacher. And so first I was doing the music, and then I began to teach and go to these wonderful, I call it the New Thought umbrella. Like we begin to see that what I was receiving aligned with what was being taught in Centers for Spiritual Living, Unity, Science of Mind, and all these other places. Like a lot of it was just totally aligned with the volumes I had brought through. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. These are the people who are following the same vibration and frequency and really getting guidance from the source. And so that's how I ended up becoming a part of that community. Later began teaching and speaking, and then eventually guidance sessions, one-on-one coaching and all of that, but using that connection. And really over the years have learned to embody and integrate with what some would call as the highest self or what have you, but integrate with whatever label you want to call it. My favorite label for it is genius. So integrate with genius, and genius on demand, GOD, and allow it to guide and be more of my identity instead of, the personality, separate identity, expanding into that oneness consciousness. And so that has created community, whether I'm with others or not. It's this, like, I recognize that all of it is the mind of God, and I am that. So, yeah.
So what would you say your purpose is with the work that you do? And does that purpose sort of extend or out into the retreats you offer, the courses or the teaching, the coaching, your music? Does it sort of cross over into all of those different ways of expression?
Yes, great question. Totally. It's funny that I have freshly been reminded, because in my morning practice, I'll ask, what do I need to know? And I was reminded today of that very thing, that everything I'm hearing to do and doing, the overarching purpose is really to be that expression of limitless love and light. That's what everyone needs from me. That's what everyone needs from you. That's what everyone needs from each other, to be that expression of limitless love and light. Now, how that looks are our unique roles, right? And so my role has evolved into first learning to be that teacher, meaning listening to the I am, listening to the Father, doing the healing work, and then sharing with others what I'm learning, right? So teacher in a different way. It's kind of, some people say it's student teacher. We've heard those analogies, like you're a student first, teacher second. That's kind of like the reality. But sharing what works and what I'm receiving direct and applying, and then being, of course, a creative, to be able to share the music, and all of it's designed for healing, meaning transformation of the mind or renewal of the mind. That integration is talking about, where we're expanding our awareness instead of being stuck in limited condition thinking, to expand, release the limited condition thinking and the blocks and the traumas, and actually begin to access these higher levels of consciousness that knows we are limitless love and light, that knows we're here to share and express that love, express who we are authentically, but not in the way that people think not the authentic wounded self. That's what a lot of people think is authentic, right? Oh, my wounded self is triggered. My wounded self has resistance, so let me be authentic. Well, you can do that, but there's another authenticity after you remove the wounds and the blocks and all that, that is love, that is peace, that is harmonious, and that knows how to navigate with intelligence and wisdom any moment. That's the real authenticity. So that authenticity is what I'm learning to bring through with everything that I do, and to support others, and really our birthright of bliss. Like all of these roles or purposes is to experience life's motive of more. And the more isn't just for, oh, let me create more so it sucks. Like, I don't think that was life's motive, that it's right is more, but it's to experience the dynamic bliss of this creation in the mind of God, creating everything for itself, imbuing it with its own consciousness, that we might actually experience this appearance of contrast and all of this for bliss. Learning to accept it all is what I'm learning and practicing and sharing more and more, to be able to see the perfection and the bliss of it. And sometimes it's tougher than other times, right? But that's the beauty of it. It's the overcoming. Without challenge, you don't have overcoming, right? You don't have victory without some hill or mountain to climb. So yeah, that's what everything is designed. Everything I'm offering is designed to help others do that too.
Great. Well, that is a mighty purpose. And we can dive a bit more into that on the other side of the break, because, yeah, we're not all living in peaches and cream, rainbows and unicorn times at the moment. Nope. So you may have some wisdom for those of us that are feeling a bit detached from that reality.
Sure.
So we'll be right back.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome to Science of Mind Archives, your gateway to spiritual wisdom. Join us for our grand opening gala. Experience a weekend of inspiration. Enjoy a ribbon-cutting ceremony, a gala dinner and workshops, plus a labyrinth walk and town hall. Connect with a community of seekers. Explore spiritual teachings and resources. Find your path to personal growth. Join us from April 24th to 27th. Lodging options are still available. Visit our website www.scienceofmindarchives.com for more details. Please RSVP by March 15th. Featuring Reverend Jesse Jennings, musical inspirations with Karen Drucker, and the spirit of Ernest Holmes. Come celebrate our new home at Unity Village, Lee's Summit, Missouri, and please visit www.scienceofmindarchives.com.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
And we're back with my guest, John Stringer, today. And John, you've been talking about your purpose and how your purpose just blends with all of the different various ways that you offer things, create things in your world and share them with your clients and your guests and your audience. And it's like we mentioned, we're not living in times of great ease and joy, especially here in the United States. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of inequality. There's a lot going on, and I don't know about you, but from my point of view, our current administration doesn't seem to share the same vision that I do. And so I'm feeling a little bit isolated. I'm currently looking for community to be able to talk about these things, and it feels a bit uphill. It feels a bit of a challenge when so many of us sort of got comfortable post-COVID and the lockdown with isolating and being in our own world and creating work that we can do from home. And now during these times, there's this sense of isolation and not connected for me and some of the people that I run into. So I'm wondering how what you're doing and the struggles that you might or might not be experiencing in your daily life, how you're helping to navigate these tumultuous waters or these huge changes. And we're really being asked to dig in and dig deep and have a closer walk with the divine. So what are you seeing? How are you navigating all of this?
You just said the solution I'm using and experiencing is not only helping me navigate it to see it as perfect, which, you know, for so many may feel like what, but even this morning, what I'm hearing is, and I can only share what I hear. So let me just start there. I feel if we look for the answers out here, even within community, it's only beneficial when community reminds us to go within. You know, when community is telling us this, and this, but not reminding us to go within, community might be distracting us from what we really need.
That's a good reminder. Maybe I will stay home and just do some meditation and not go outside and seek it all out there.
To me, the starting point, it's almost like the same with manifesting is what I've often learned is we often look at it backwards. We often think manifesting is about the external, but that's materialization. Manifesting is internal, instant manifestation, vibration, frequency, visualization, affirmation, whatever brings us to that aligned frequency where we become that which we desire is instant manifestation. Materialization is the inspired action that brings the situation, person, place, thing, et cetera, that we've been matching. Right. So we, to me, that's a form of manifestation too. Don't get me wrong, but I like to say it that way because it makes it easier for the brain to be like, oh, okay, there is a starting point where I have 100% responsibility to actually choose. And that's the quality of thinking, the quality of thought. And thought isn't just words and ideas. There's a lot of different levels of thought, but the quality of thought or levels of consciousness that I choose from, that's informing the quality of the experience that I have. Therefore, no matter what happens around me, if I'm aligning with the source of life and accessing that genius and that knowing, it will provide for me how to see the perfection of whatever is and how to accept it and navigate it versus fear. We have not been given a spirit of fear. That is when we know we are. Let me rephrase that. Anxiety. We have not been given a spirit of anxiety. That's when we quote fear something that's not even present. Right now, fear can be helpful if the lion is in front of you. So that's why I say it that way. But the imagined things that aren't even in front of us and what ifs and, oh man, this might do this, that, or the other. We have not been given that spirit. That spirit comes from when we're out of alignment. The spirit of the I am helps us see and how to navigate. During COVID, boy, don't you know, I was listening so hard just because there were a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of uncertainty. So I'm tuning in like other people might have been tuning into the news. I'm tuning in. Like, help. What do I do? Navigate. And man, we navigated it and I felt great. And the reality is when we're doing that, now I broke my ankle during that time. I was on a healing journey. Didn't mean I didn't feel a lot of pain, but I was learning how to let go of the suffering. And it was tremendous. And I was being guided the whole way, even to break my ankle during that time. It was this beautiful forced, okay, now that everybody's locked in, you just gonna sit here and heal for 6 months and go to physical therapy and learn how to navigate pain in a new way without suffering. And it worked. And it gave me a higher threshold for accepting what looks painful and understanding its perfection. Without the impetus to feel contraction, we don't break through the shell and birth something new. Without the cramps and the, contractions, we don't birth the baby. Like without the messiness and chaos, the baby won't be born. So all of that to say, I think we are birthing something new together. The way I hear it is the new human. It's that integration I was talking about, where we've gotten so committed to listening and aligning and using our practices not as a temporary thing. First, it used to be like go to church, use that practice, study the Bible, using that practice. Then we moved to, okay, meditate, use that practice, change the mind, create newer pathways that see things differently through gratitude, through appreciation, acceptance, and love. Then it became, okay, now learn how to listen and hear guidance and be guided by the spirit. Then it becomes, okay, now recognize you are that, align with that and allow that to guide you and be the demonstration so that your gifts serve others and yourself. It's the most fulfilling thing to do, to align with who you came to be and awaken those gifts. So even in turbulent times, that's the mud that grows the lotus. That's the nutrients, the perfect ingredients is the new analogy I've been hearing, like my life being the perfect ingredients. I finally listened to the head chef. And now I'm making I'm making the wonderful recipes that I'm receiving.
That's
But
beautiful.
all of that is, as you know, dependent on our ability to listen within. And that navigates us through this. There's a new film called Navigating the Clickety Clack, how to find peace in a seemingly toxic world. It's seemingly toxic. It's not actually toxic. It just looks that way. So we learn how to navigate through listening to the GPS, the great source itself, letting that be our GPS. And so anyway, and all of that to say, that's what I tell people and share is there is this loving, divine presence in essence, the source of life, and it will come to you however it needs to if you call upon it and begin to cultivate that listening, and it will guide you into what you're here to be.
So as you're sharing that, it reminds me of the work you're doing, not only with your music and your writing, your book, and your coaching, but these retreats that you are taking people on and giving people that have an idea that they want to, bring forth, give birth to, whether it's music or art or a new project or even a new way of being. And so I'd love to hear about your retreats and what that looks like and how you support people in through this very, somatic experience, face to face. Like, tell us a little bit about that and whatever other thing you're doing that you'd love to share with us today.
Sure. So I'm a partner at Healing Arts Management. That's healingartsmgmt.com. That's the actual website my wife and I are partners with, and we heard to form that to partner with others and help them bring their visions together through these retreats and through other things that we do. We used to have a wonderful client named Jill Colucci. So we were artist managing as well for a while, as well as my brand. And then we decided, let's just focus on John's brand for now. And now we're moving back into artist management. But all of that to say, the retreats that we co-create are usually with partners, like Cerise Patron. We've done wonderful retreats with her from Peru to Costa Rica. We just had the Conscious Creators Retreat. The wonderful Ricky Byers came to be a part of that retreat and put on a fabulous concert. And we all wrote a song together, over 20, I think it was 24 total of us. And that song I'm recording now. It's a wonderful song. But at those retreats with Cerise, we use a lot of the music to really help experience our genius, but also to celebrate our genius in all these, like the wonderful music of Ricky Byers. Another retreat we're doing is the Ricky Byers Spring Revival. And this will be the second annual one. But we're doing it annually in Lake Junaluska, the first two. The next one, we'll see where it'll be, but it's an incredible experience to celebrate the music of Ricky Byers and all her special guests. I'm one of them, but she has so many wonderful guests, including comedian Quinn Fontaine, who has us laughing and going deep and all of it. And Georgia Muldrow, Ricky's daughter, who is phenomenal as well. Rob, I'm just gonna call him Bass, but that's not his last name, but he plays the bass. He tours with Ricky as part of her band. Phenomenal voice and singer as well. But all these amazing artists sharing their gifts together and just celebrating the divine, celebrating genius on demand, celebrating God, celebrating in love. So Regasa is the theme: rest in God and say amen. And that was Ricky's vision. So we produced that wonderful retreat, revival. It's an all-inclusive 3-day, just amazing experience. In fact, I have a code. If anybody'd like to go to the upcoming one, I can share it here to give them a discount. Would love to do that.
Go ahead and type that in. So
I'll type it in the chat.
So what I'm sensing here is you and your wife are helping co-create a beautiful immersive experience for individuals.
Right.
The artist who you're supporting and all the people that are coming to, to grow with this and through this experience.
And
So,
celebrate, feel it,
oh my
experience
gosh.
it. 'Cause much of what the other thing is much of what we experience is vibrational. So music is such an important part of navigating life, whether celebration, whether grieving, whether healing, whatever it is. It's such an important part. It's fundamental in our nature. Everything is energy, and energy vibrates. And what are waves? It's technically music. It's just we don't translate it that way. But everything is sound essentially, or music in one sense. But all of that to say, the music of creation, bringing it into these forms and celebrating it together, sharing it with each other, such a powerful medicine in and of itself. And then we have the other thing. So we provide the structure to facilitate and bring these wonderful visions to people so they can come and benefit and feel the connection, the revitalization, re-energizing, transforming, all of that. So it's just a beautiful time.
So are most of your clients musicians, or do you plan to work with other folk that maybe aren't musically inclined to help support them in creating an experience for their students or their following?
Great question. So some of our other partners that we work with are non-musicians, including the breathwork events that we co-create with our partners, the retreats called the Big Glow that we've done. We've done some intuitive, expanding awareness and intuition retreats with non-musical partners to teach how to really tap in. And then I'm leaving someone out. Forgive me, whoever you are, who is non-musical. But yes, we've worked with different clients in that capacity as partners. Oh, Dr. Mark Armstrong. That's who I was leaving out. Dr. Mark Armstrong is a profound doctor who has people from all around the world visit him in Atlanta. And so we're partnering with him to create a great health summit next year. So he's non-musical. Don't get me wrong, he uses sound. Everybody's musical in that sense, but he's not a singer or musician in that, in the professional sense. But we also are blessed to be working with more in the music realm. For example, I've had clients with my 5-day Unlock Your Songwriting Genius Challenge, where I've helped them access that genius and learn how to apply it to songwriting. The cool thing is I first started learning how to access it to write music. I'd had a top 10 Billboard single, and then I had a writer's block and I couldn't write the next album. And so I was like, okay, I got to learn how to write genius. And I had already gone through so much awakening that I knew meditation and the mind was an essential part. Everything came together, began to develop this practice, and thankfully it unlocked. So now I teach people who aspire to write music, even people who can't sing and can't play an instrument. So I teach those who desire to write songs how to do it without even having those two things. It's amazing what's possible, especially with what's available these days. So all that to say, the types of clients that I've worked with vary, and really we don't know what's to come, but we do know it is the things that are being birthed now are to really empower us as we navigate some turbulence and some birthing pains and some, contractions and all of these things. It's really that, going back to the community you talked about, those who are hearing this call and listening and aligning with what their soul's blueprint are, that we're joining with them. We're part of another mastermind type group that I'll just say helps align like-hearted and like-minded people around the world to awaken to our power and to take back our power in ways that are both practical and metaphysical. It's combining that so that everything becomes sacred, even the mundane.
And
even
what
Go ahead.
is that? What's that? You said you're partnering with this other group. Is this something that we need to know about, or just planting
So
the seed?
contact me directly if you want to know more about that. It's a how can I put it? It's one of those kind of like plant medicine. It's kind of like that. Like in the US, how, plant medicine here is kind of taboo. And I've heard, I'll just say, to do plant medicine took a group to Peru where you can do it. But it's like one of those things where the power of it is so misunderstood. And a lot of the things that we have normalized aren't actually normal. Right? A lot of the things that we have normalized now are, so for those of us who are waking up and listening for what's ours to do, it's not going to look normal.
Say
going to
more
be
about
different.
that, because I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're on the edge of that.
Yeah.
You're highly creative, you're highly intuitive and receptive. So you're getting downloads. A lot of people are struggling to even take a minute to meditate. So what is it that you're hearing? What is it that might inspire those individuals that are listening that know that meditation is a benefit? It's supposed to ease stress and a lot of things, and good for our health. But what is it that you're hearing that maybe some of us are missing because we're too busy, that the world needs to hear right now?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. It's really that what we've normalized as cultural aspirations and the normality of what we're experiencing in our cultures is sometimes, it's beautiful and it's perfect, but it's sometimes the perfect ingredient to help us find what's natural. Because what's natural is the real normal. And so that when we're aligned with that wonderful source of life and begin to actually listen and bring that integration, we let go of the illusion of separation. And that meditation helps us let go of the illusion of separation and unlock that wonderful genius that resides within us all. I remember when I had a breakdown when I was 18, I might have alluded to it. I was at Morehouse College, and I remember just before I had the expansive experience, I was literally in a panic because I'd had a complete breakdown of my beliefs. Someone challenged me with these questions, but how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? It's the first time it brought, remember I was telling you how in the elevator, push the button. This guy was screaming, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And it finally penetrated my delusion of belief to realize for the first time, I didn't really know. I was like, oh my God, I had a mental breakdown, a real mental breakdown right then and there. Panic ensued. I was like, I don't actually know. I freaked out. I was like, I gotta go. I ran to the commissary, the little lunch place where I could close the door. And I just sat on the ground saying, Jesus, 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 praying for help. I believed in all this biblical stuff and conditioning, but I didn't really know. And it broke through. And I'm like, oh my God. Push the button. And so that opened me up. And where it took me was hearing this inner voice that began to guide me on what to do next in the midst of chaos. My I'll describe it this way. My ego collapsed to the point that I could hear everything. I could hear thoughts. It was like, I thought I was crazy, but I was literally conscious of it and knew it wasn't normal. Right?
Natural.
It was natural, and I just didn't know how to navigate it, but it wasn't, quote, normal from what I'd been conditioned. And I'm just panicked, like, oh my God, what's going on? I don't know what to do. And I hear this inner knowing that just comes up, says, get up and go to the nurse. Literally, it was this inner knowing just guiding me. And I just followed it because what else am I going to do? I'm like, oh, this is different. This is the only clear thing I'm seeing right now in this whirlwind of chaos, what's felt like chaos, right? And that ensued for 7 days. About a week, I ended up in a mental ward, literally a mental ward. And when they let me out, they said, you had a mental breakdown. I'm like, yeah, I knew that, but what else you got for me? He's like, you just need to rest and stop stressing. I'm like, that's it? That's all you could tell me? I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right here. So that sent me on that was the pattern interrupt that I needed to actually stop listening to the limited condition thinking. And we don't have to be smacked in the head to do it like that. We can choose to do it. We can choose through meditation to interrupt the pattern, interrupt the programming, interrupt the quality of thinking we're choosing that's producing the quality of experience we don't like. If you're looking at the world and experiencing life right now and not liking it, it is not the world. It is the quality of thinking you're choosing. Hands down, meditation helps you choose differently. You need a pattern interrupt. Don't let it be like mine. Not that that's a bad thing. That's what I needed. But you can choose it a little like gently and softer if you like, and begin to open up. And meditation can lead to the activation of that source energy that removes the blocks. Had the Kundalini awakening that people talk about. I didn't even know what that was. I wasn't seeking it. I was just meditating and it happened. And I thought I was being possessed. It's like, oh no, this is clearing the blocks. This is allowing you to be able to integrate and create these pathways that make it easier to actually access these higher levels of consciousness. Meditation helps us do so many wonderful things when we're aligning with the source. So any practice, in fact, that helps us align with source can activate and allow that source energy to do its work through, in, and as us, remove the blocks and change the level of consciousness we're choosing our level of quality of thinking from. And then that changes our experience. And so the benefit, to answer your question, in the reminders, we have the opportunity from moment to moment to be in this state of meditation, and everything's a meditation as we're aligning and accessing the higher levels of consciousness. The practice leads to the mastery. So the practice of meditation is designed to bring us to this place where moment to moment, we are aligned with the source of who we are. And we're bringing through what to say, how to say it, navigating what to think, how to feel what we want to feel, etc. But without that practice, we don't get the mastery.
Thank you, John. That was so beautiful. And I hope that those of you out there that really are looking for what's my next step really heard that the power of going within, connecting to that higher self, the divine, is really a path to really gain guidance and clarity over what we can do in our lives to turn things around. And here at the growing edge, which is the growing edge of our own becoming, we need to be able to trust something real, and that real is what you just talked about. We're right here at the end of our show. I can't believe we've just been having a great conversation here for a whole hour. So people can connect with you at johnstringerinc.com.
That's right.
And thank you so much for today's conversation. I wish you every blessing, and thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. It was a blessing.
All right, everyone. Another great episode of Growing Edge Live. Thank you for being here today, and I'll see you next week. Peace and blessings. Lots of love. Bye-bye. Mwah.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge.